Good morning.
Good morning.
We're headed to Magic Kingdom today.
Today's a magical day. We've been told multiple times that it's a magical experience
That's
the
right.
whole way through.
That's right.
Cast members are on point today. They're very excited,
They are.
and I appreciate that.
So let's head on over to Magic Kingdom.
Let's go.
We're starting our day at the Shootin' Arcade.
No one's here.
No one's here, so
Perfect.
let's see who's better shot.
I mean, Hootie. Oh, you're going so fast.
I feel like I win.
I think so.
That was fun.
I have to admit, it's actually pretty cool that no one was here, so you actually get to enjoy everything that's actually happening.
It's true. Like, you can actually see what you're doing as opposed to just like everyone else.
Yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
And it's free. That's awesome. Now we're off to the most underrated attraction at Walt Disney World. The Hall of Presidents.
Yeah, I haven't been in a very long time. I mean, shoot, 2000, I don't know, a long time ago.
Yeah, I don't know when the last time we was that we went to the Hall of Presidents.
It's been a long time.
But we're going today.
Heck yeah.
What did you think of the Hall of Presidents?
Well, I'm an adult now. No, it's an amazing show. I think everyone definitely should see it. Especially if you're a kid and you saw it a long time ago. Obviously, you know, if you're into like the history and stuff like that, it's one thing. But then like coming back as an adult, it's something else.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it definitely hits differently. It's a whole different experience.
I
So,
also really like the animatronics. Like, it's really impressive.
the whole show is actually impressive.
Yeah.
Everything about it. The screens are amazing for the viewing and stuff like that. Plus the narration's awesome, and then the animatronics are actually ridiculous. They're actually very impressive.
All right, I don't know what we're gonna do next, but we'll figure it out.
Yep.
We're going on Dumbo.
What?
Is your first time on Dumbo?
Oh, yeah. So
Why is Dumbo a litter bug?
he leaves peanuts all over the place. Now we understand they're organic. It's okay. They'll biodegrade. But he is a pig. Oh, no.
He's an elephant.
He's a pig. He leaves peanuts everywhere.
There are peanuts all over the ground. Not over here, but by the entrance of the queue.
Yep. Look down next time you come by.
Yeah.
Honored guests, children of all ages, welcome, one and all.
Are you ready?
I'm excited.
This is awesome.
I've never been on this ride before.
It's a good one. It's a classic.
Classic. We like classics around here, okay? I can't go anywhere. Why can't I control it? I want to control it. I want to control my Dumbo. Nope. I think ours is broken.
Again?
You got a broken one before too? It is what it is.
It's another broken Dumbo. Second time. Second broken Dumbo.
That's twice in a row for you.
So sad.
I'm sorry. Oh well.
Oh well. So we are about 5 minutes away from being able to check in for our dining at Be Our Guest. Now, I have written terrible reviews of this restaurant in the past, but we're here again today because we keep walking past Be Our Guest and it smells so good. And we've been trying to put our finger on what exactly it was that smells so good as we walked past this area, and we figured it has to be Be Our Guest. So we booked ourselves a lunch reservation for Be Our Guest, because that's around the time that things usually smell really good out here. So we'll see if it's good. Do you have any thoughts?
Not the music box room.
That's what we're hoping for, not the music box room. So anyway, we'll take you along. We'll tell you. Are you?
Yeah. I've never ordered filet mignon, or I've never had lobster bisque.
It's a fancy menu.
Yeah, it's like stuff I've never even had before, so I'm excited just for the food alone. Like, I mean, it's cool that we're gonna have the ambiance and stuff like that with the castle and stuff, but like, I'm excited for the food because it's stuff I've never eaten before.
Yeah. And it does sound pretty good.
So here's the other thing too, though, real quick, is this is, I would consider a heavy meal.
I would.
And
yeah.
we never do this kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to see how I feel after eating this.
Like if you want to stay in the park,
And
or
if I want to stay in the park,
go right
or
home.
go take a nap.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no.
Oh no. Oh,
Oh no. Well, necessity does some funny things to us. First, your shoe breaks, then you're wearing these. Life's funny. Okay, now that everything is chill, I asked around to see if there was a place I could buy a new pair of shoes, and everyone was like Main Street. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna make my way to Main Street. And as I was kind of coming around to Tomorrowland, I was like, oh, that's right, they sell shoes. I think I've seen Crocs at Star Traders. So I went in there, ended up getting myself a pair of these. What are these called? Native shoes. I hunted for a size that fit, found a size that fit, and immediately put them on and started like booking it back to Be Our Guest because our reservation was coming up. And by the time I got to Be Our Guest, I realized that these shoes are not the same size. So I have one that's size 10, one that's size 11, and the one that's size 11 definitely doesn't fit. So there's nothing I can do about it right now because we're waiting for our dining reservation. But after this, we're gonna try and resolve this issue somehow. My receipt gone because I threw it away with my broken shoes and didn't even think about it. So we'll see how it gets. We'll see how it gets squared away. Hopefully, it will get squared away because these were not cheap. But it's fine. I'm hungry though. Looking forward to some food. Our food is here. We're at Be Our Guest. This is the octopus salad, and Russ got
The lobster bisque.
lobster bisque.
Never had it. Very excited.
Let's eat. The beast is here. That's so cool. Okay, so we just wrapped up our appetizers. They're still on the table, but our main dish came out. What did you think of the appetizers? Great, me too. So we have the fish of the day, and we also have the filet mignon. Here is our dessert. It's so hard to see in the dark, but that's okay.
You need a little light?
No, we'll be all right. How excited are you that you don't have to pick?
Okay, Mrs. Potts came through. She must have knew that I had some issues picking the last thing on the dessert menu. You get all three. And what's so funny is I was asking, I was like, trio, why is it saying dessert trio? And I'm just like, does it include all three or is there three options?
You get all
you get
three.
all three.
Awesome.
So very excited, and I'm excited to have all three of them. I really am.
Yeah, let's mow. We're making our way out of Magic Kingdom now, and we stopped in the fire department, they have patches from fire departments all over the country. You should come in here and see if you can find one from your hometown or wherever it is that you happen to live. You never know. Is there one from our hometown in here?
What's that?
Is there a patch from our hometown in here?
I don't know. I haven't seen one.
I want to say that there was at one time, and maybe they rotate them out or something, I don't know, but take a look. It's worth the time, I think. And now we're heading back to the car.
That's it.
We have a lot to say, but we haven't said it yet.
Yeah, there's so much to say.
I feel like we should get home, cool off a little bit, and then maybe we'll sit down and talk about it. So we'll see you there.
Yep.
We've arrived home. We've freshened up. What? What are you laughing at?
Nothing. It's true.
It's also much, much later.
Yeah. So we were at the parks a lot later than I expected us to be.
Yeah, we
Today?
ended up going home around 2:30, 3 o'clock,
Yeah.
which is, it's rather warm that time of day. I like to be out of the parks before lunch because it gets too hot.
Of course, we did lunch.
We did lunch at the parks, and then we kind of like slowly wandered our way out. We were at lunch for a long time though, I think.
I think so. That's probably the longest lunch I ever had, and we
Yeah.
were rushed.
So anyway, it was really warm by the time we left. I don't think either of us were really prepared for that. Today, Russ spends a lot of time inside, and for me, I had done a lot of running around trying to resolve the shoe situation.
Yeah, and for whatever reason, I forgot that I had an ice cold drink in my bag with me that I was hauling around all day. So I screwed up not thinking about that for some reason. It's not that even that I was thirsty, but like I easily could have been
You could have been
slowly sipping
yeah.
throughout the day. I'm an idiot.
Look, it happens. But, you know, that's part of being at Disney this time of year. So that's why it took us so long to, like, get back to this point.
Yeah.
And now we want to talk to you a little bit about our lunch. Because I have to say I was a little surprised. I didn't think that this is what we were going to be talking about. But here we are.
Today was a very interesting day.
So we booked...
Let's get into it.
Yeah, we booked a thing and we ate. I think we both were expecting it to not be good for a long list of reasons, but
yeah. So let's talk about what we did, right? So I was able to snag us a lunch reservation, and it was 11:30, 11:45, whatever. So it was like perfect lunchtime, starting of the lunch rush, if you will.
Yeah, it was definitely I would say that this was during the lunch rush.
Yeah. In
a perfect world, I would have. I don't know how early the reservations start. But in a perfect world, I probably would have gone earlier. So let's start. Let's start with the whole check-in process.
Yeah.
Now today it was a little bit crazy because like right as we were going to check in, my shoes broke. So there was a little bit of running and walking through Disney barefoot. Yes, that was an adventure. So there's a little bit of that. But once we did check in, and I got some shoes, we made our way over to the front of Be Our Guest. So there's two sections that you could call the front of Be Our Guest. There's like the archway where you walk into like the hall, the walkway to the restaurant, and then
the bridge.
Yeah, the bridge.
You have your gate essentially, and then you have the bridge to go in, and then you have your interior vestibule. I love
Yeah.
that word when I can.
And then there's the inside.
The inside.
And that is like the waiting room, if you will. Now, when we communicated a little bit with the people at Be Our Guest, but there was some confusion with the check-in process.
So this is my frustration with the way Be Our Guest does their check-in process. So we've done a couple dining reservations over the past couple of months.
Oh, yeah, and I've done dining reservations
And
myself too.
yeah, the app gives us the ability to digitally or virtually check in for our meal. So of course, the second we started walking back up after she got her shoe situation figured out, we were walking up and we were at our time. So I wanted to make sure we got checked in. So I digitally check us in like I normally do, and then we sit, because then you get a notification once your name gets called. And so we're sitting there, and of course 11:30, it's midday. There is no shade.
No shade.
There's absolutely no shade in that area before you go across the bridge into the actual castle itself. So 10 minutes goes by, which I think is reasonable. And when I say 10 minutes, I mean 10 minutes from our actual reservation time. So it's like 11:45 or whatever. And we still don't get called. We don't get anything. So I go and ask. It was like, hey, we have they were like, do you want to check in? I was like, no, I've already checked in, but I'm just trying to find out what we're looking at for lead time so we can, go in and get our table. And he said, you're actually good to go, but we're 10 minutes behind, so go ahead. And so we were able to actually cross the bridge and go into the castle and sit inside, or at least stand inside in the AC in the castle itself, which was rough to realize that without being told that.
And this is another, we've had many conversations about this before. I'll link some of them down below, but this is one of the frustrations, and that is really the best word for it when it comes to Disney not being clear about their process or whatever the case may be. If you are going to check in and that first set of cast members at Be Our Guest is your check-in cast member, and then once you've checked in and it's your time, you can go inside because they're calling names from inside. So this is kind of the frustration that we've expressed before, and I'm just going to take a second to express it again. When you are not clear about how things work to the guests, us, things don't work smoothly, and that's kind of what happened here today, because there were a lot of cast members walking out and like just kind of like looking around, like, and you can't really hear them when they're calling for you, and it's hot out there, and
some of them are actually they're still wearing masks, so they are needing to speak even louder, and even so it's still tough to hear, because here's the kicker: you're right across the street or walkway from Seven Dwarfs Mine Train, which are people screaming on that loop.
So it's a little bit of a thing. So anyway, so there is that. Then once you get in, that was kind of it would have been really cool to wait in there for a little bit longer, because there are some really great photo opportunities in there where you can like hang out, take pictures pictures in the castle. It's pretty cool. Yeah,
so I think pretty much what we discovered is a gap between a regular check-in process and technology. The kicker is I still didn't get a notification when I had that conversation with the cast member. But we were okay to cross the bridge.
Did you ever get a notification?
No.
And that's the thing, okay? Because I said to him when we were sitting, I was like listening, like I kept like stepping back from our conversation because we were like hiding in a little bit of shade.
We carved out our own shade.
But I kept saying to him, I'm listening, and he was like, oh, I'm going to get a push notification.
Yeah.
But no push notification.
No, I never got the push notification at that 10-minute mark, and even when we finally got into the castle and they did call our name, still didn't get one, which I thought was weird. So I don't know. Like I said, definitely a gap with the tech and that restaurant in particular. I will say this, we would have turned to bacon sitting out there because it was getting hot.
It would have been rough to sit out there for another
10 minutes?
5-10 minutes, which is what we ended up waiting once we got in. But once we were seated, everything went really smooth. We're a table of 2, so you kind of get the lousy spots that are off shoved in the corner. This is a problem you get when you're traveling with just 2 people, or if you're traveling by yourself, you get a tiny table that's shoved in. So I didn't think it was the best, but it was fine.
Didn't get the music.
I didn't get the music box. And the one thing I was like, please, I don't want the music box room. We ended up sitting in the ballroom, which was great.
Yeah, we sat there before.
We did sit in there before, but it was great. Yeah. The downside to where we were sitting kind of right at the entrance to the West Wing. And it was like I don't know, I want to call it a battle station. What is it?
It's a prep station.
It's a prep station,
for
thank
silverware.
You. A prep station for silverware and all that other stuff. So there was always cast members, always servers, and always like noise right where we were.
Yeah.
Which I wasn't a huge fan of.
No, not a huge fan of it. And so I want to talk about the ballroom in general right now, right?
Okay.
So some of you may be in our situation where you went pre the world turning on its head, and you are actually planning a trip right now and are going back, and you want to go back to be our guest. So one of the biggest issues that I had, and everyone had, with our trip originally was the amount of space between tables at the time.
Yeah.
Pre the world going sideways or upside down, whatever you want to call it. That has since been resolved.
Yes.
They got rid of these round, massive tables and went to rectangular, squared tables and spaced them out. Not even like for precautionary measures, it seems like just proper spacing for what the restaurant should have.
I feel like one of these things, like I know a lot of people have been saying that pre 2020, or that everything that happened in 2020 would potentially correct some things. And I think that if there's an argument for that, it's with this restaurant. I think that this is one of those situations where it was shoved so tight in 2019, and I don't know if this will go back, I hope it doesn't, but it was shoved so tight in 2019 that it was like hard to walk. It was very uncomfortable. It was not a good situation. And then it seemed like when they had to social distance, they kind of corrected a little bit, and they're like, oh, this is what a restaurant's supposed to look like. Yeah. And while it's definitely more people in there, it's not social distance in there anymore. That's what I'm trying to get at. So it's the way I would describe it is like cafeteria style.
Sure.
While the tables aren't just one long table, it's in that kind of setup where it's rows of square tables. It's a lot of people, but it's much more uniform, much easier to move, and it just feels better in there than it did in 2019.
Yeah, you can breathe. So with that, what's interesting, I will be interested to see if they, one, bring back breakfast as an option, and two, will that adjust the whole table situation? Because what blows my mind, right? So obviously you all sat with us, and you saw the Beast come out and stuff like that. I couldn't imagine how the Beast walked through there before.
He did the same thing, because while the tables are set up different, the path
was still there. But it just seems like it was a lot wider. It was a much better situation overall.
Yeah, it was good.
So with that, the food. Okay? So our 2019 experience was breakfast only. Was not the best breakfast.
No, it was terrible.
It was...
and terrible for the price. So if you don't remember, back in 2019, it was also a prefix situation, but breakfast is counter service. So it's...
I mean, I wouldn't
Look, I have a lot of...
Anyways.
Yeah, but it's technically considered counter service.
Sure.
Like you order from a kiosk rather than a server, but a server brings it to you. It's a whole thing. Look, here's the long and short of it. In 2019, breakfast was around $30 to $37 a head.
Yep.
And it was incredibly disappointing, considering that you could get about the same experience at your hotel for $12. Like, it was the same type of food, same type of everything.
The recent breakfasts we've been having have been phenomenal for a quarter of the price. And on top of that, they had like things that were like to share with the table, and they would be like, oh, well, you know, it's so fancy you could share it with the table, but it was like these little dinky things, and we had a large group, so you're like, what are you talking about? This is not a good deal. Now, today's lunch was $62 a person. Yep.
Which included soft drinks, but not wine or anything like that. We didn't have any liquor or hard wine, whatever. It ended up costing us what, $140?
With tip, $140, and our annual pass discount.
With the annual pass discount.
We had an annual pass discount, and with our tip, it was like $140 and change.
So I bring that up before we talk about the food,
sure,
because I consider the price and the quality to play a role in how I feel about the dish. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, for example, earlier, $37 for that meal. It was fine. The eggs were fine, but not $37 worth, which is why I consider it horrible. Today, pleasantly surprised, if not blown away.
The food from start to finish was absolutely phenomenal. I can't stress that enough.
It was so good.
It was worth every single penny that we paid for that meal, and then some.
I actually think it was quite the value. On the surface, yes, it is very expensive.
I'm giving it rabbit ears.
Expensive.
It's expensive.
But the real big thing here is understanding what it is that you're getting.
Mm-hmm.
And I understand that you don't necessarily know the quality or the amount of food that you're going to get, but I do think that it's important, if you're thinking about eating a place like Be Our Guest, to think about what it is that you're getting and what it would cost you if it was elsewhere.
So, if you think about what we got earlier and actually break down the $62, it's really a joke. I feel like...
Well, I don't think I would say it's a
No,
joke.
okay.
But here's what I'll say. Look, here's what I'll say about it, okay? We took some time once we got home and while we were hydrating and eating some Italian ice to look at different menus and see what the cost of these different items would be. And at different restaurants, whether it's signature or not, the price of dishes works out to be at least $62 per person.
Or way beyond.
Or way beyond.
Yeah. So the two places that I compared to was STK out of Disney Springs. So off, out of park dining experience.
Yep.
And Le Cellier at the Canada Pavilion in Epcot. A swinging good deal.
And when we got to Le Cellier and we did a price breakdown of similar items, it ended up coming up to, what was it?
One meal that we made that was relative to the ingredients that we got was $94.
And so this is where it becomes really interesting, because if you think about it, I understand where on the surface you're like, wow, $62 is a lot of money, but it's a lot of money if you're not planning on having a 3-course meal.
Yeah. So for us, we never do 3 courses.
We never do
ever.
it.
We don't shoot.
We would always split an appetizer. Like, we would have never done this. Like, this is not a normal meal. This is a fancy meal. And I realize that a lot of people don't do this. Like, where you get, like, an appetizer for everyone at the table. Not one to share, but one for me, one for you. Yeah. Same thing with an entree or even dessert. Like, normally we'd get, like, one to share. We wouldn't get one for me, one for you. Which, by the way, don't share this dessert. This is way too good. But...
Oh, my God. It was ridiculous. Thank you, Mrs. Potts.
But... So I think that you really have to take a second and understand what you're getting for the price. On top of that, you do get a character sighting. You guys saw, we could see the bees.
Yeah, so that's really where I think not only we're talking the price point of the actual food to food comparison, but you get a character sighting.
Yes.
You can walk around and check out the environment around you, and it's a once in a lifetime kind of situation.
It is.
The West Wing is something phenomenal to check out. It really is. The ballroom, absolutely beautiful. Music room, not her thing. However, if you got a kid who likes, actual music boxes and stuff, it's beautiful. Check it out. But you're not getting that at STK at Disney Springs.
Yeah.
You're getting a nice dining experience, atmosphere, and the same with Le Cellier.
Now, here's something I will say, though, because this is a big key moment that we both were thinking about.
No, I think you thought about this, and it completely blew my mind.
We started both thinking about this together. Yep. So, the one downside, the one, like, real big thing, because the food was amazing. I would honestly go back and eat there again. I would get different dishes next time. Like, that's a whole different discussion for another day.
Yeah.
But the food was really great. The theming and everything is really great. The service was amazing, but it's loud, and the atmosphere, the ambiance isn't there. And when we first sat down, both of us were kind of like, I don't know. I just, it's so loud in here. Like, you can't really have a discussion. It did feel like you were at a chow hall.
Yeah, it really did.
But as we were going and as I got the food and I started eating, I started thinking about how it doesn't really matter, because I think that this is a great experience. So the food is good and everything, and you'll go wherever to eat good food, right? But I think one thing that's special about Be Our Guest, and probably why people love it, is because it is this really great dining experience where you can have really good food. They even have wine that is only served at the restaurant, which is so cool. I wasn't into that today, but maybe next time I'll have to get a glass of something that's like special. And yeah, there'll probably be a next time because it was that good.
And that's a theory for another. We're probably going to go back at some point in time,
Yeah.
and we have a theory that we want to test.
So we'll see. But I think that it's a place where you can get all the things you want to get out of a fancy dining experience, but also it's kid friendly. It's very kid friendly.
You really broke my brain when you said that.
Yeah.
It was a mind-boggling experience. Obviously, Disney's trying to cater to the different palates, the different families.
Yes.
This really gives those families a chance that have children but still want a filet mignon, meal.
Like a fancy
meal. You can have that and have the ability to have your children with you when you can't just pawn them off on grandma and grandpa or a sibling or something to take care of them and watch them.
Yeah.
And they have to be with you at all times. You have the leniency to have them there. Drop a fork. Drop a glass,
and like
which
if a
happens.
kid, and if
it
a kid is loud, look, because here's the thing, children are loud.
It
Not
can be.
all children sit quietly at fancy restaurants. And if your child doesn't sit quietly at a fancy restaurant, I don't recommend bringing them to a fancy restaurant, because there are people who are paying a lot of money to go to those restaurants and have a certain type of experience, and it's not designed for children.
Yeah.
Even at a theme park, because I know there are people who are like, well, it's a theme park, kids are everywhere. No, they're not. Kids aren't everywhere at Walt Disney World. There are dining experiences that are unique, and they're not designed for kids. They're designed for adults who want to go experience new and unique things. But this is a restaurant that really allows you to straddle that line of having that new, unique, fancy dining, but also having it kid-friendly, that if you have a kid that maybe gets overexcited and yells or screams or laughs really loudly, that's totally fine here. And you're not going to feel, or rather I should say, you shouldn't feel as though it's embarrassing. I know there are some people out there who do feel that way, or as though you're going to disturb others. It's so loud anyway that it's not that big a deal. And honestly, as we went through our meal, it became less and less of a problem for me.
And I want to second that.
Mainly because of how good the food was. And I was like, oh, this makes sense.
Yeah, I literally went food deaf, is the best way I can describe it.
Food deaf.
Food deaf.
Nose blind and food deaf.
I was so into my meal that I forgot and could not actually take in what was actually happening around me. I was so into my meal.
And it's good enough that it allows you to do that. See, if this was mediocre food, this would be a whole different discussion. We'd be talking about how
we'd be in
it's
2019
ridiculous.
all over again.
Like, because truthfully, if this was mediocre food, I'd be like, it's too loud for the price. Like, I'd have a whole list. But none of that applies here, because it was loud, but it was fun, and it was like unique, and the food was so good.
Yeah, and why don't you grab it?
Yes.
So this is another cool thing.
We got a little souvenir.
We got a going away. Thank you from the Beast himself.
That's right. So we did, even though you can't meet the Beast, you can't hug him or get pictures with him or anything like that. He just kind of does a walkabout in the restaurant.
Yep.
You do get his autograph at the end. So it comes on this really cool card, and on the back
It has the castle.
It has the castle in stained glass. How cool is that? So you get a nice little take home. You had a really neat dining experience, and at a reasonable price. I have to say, at a reasonable price. And you guys know, it is coming from someone who brings her own lunch to the parks. I'm not sitting here like blowing money all the time.
Yeah.
I think it was reasonable.
I think it was a very good experience. In the end, it was a very good experience. It really changed my outlook on the whole experience as a whole. It really did. Especially when you brought to light that very important factor about the family environment and everything.
Yeah.
So this is something really big to keep in mind. If that's not your thing, don't go here. You know what I mean?
If you're looking for a very signature dining experience where you can dress up nice, which a lot of people did, but if you can dress up nice and not have that like loud, romantic dinner is what you're looking for, this is not the restaurant for you.
Yeah.
At least not during lunch.
At least not during lunch. But the food was absolutely
so good.
Amazing.
So good.
But yeah.
But that basically is it.
That was it. That was. I'm so sad we're not going back again right now. Like,
I know. We have so many other great places to eat, but it's on the list to go back.
Yeah, it's on our list to go back. We'll definitely look at doing that in the future for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah,
for now, we hope that you enjoyed kind of coming along with us today. I know we talked about it a little bit earlier. I'm not going to get into it here, but we'll talk about it some other time. My shoe situation did get resolved. Took a minute, but it did get resolved, so that's good. So now I am the proud owner of Minnie Mouse native shoes.
And you're putting the picture in right here to show them.
Yes, I took a picture with a PhotoPass photographer, and I said, Russ said,
there was a condition. Yeah, there was a condition for her to take our picture.
Said, please make sure the shoes get in the shot.
The shoes need to be in the shot.
So we did that. So now you can see it here. But thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, we really appreciate it, and hopefully this, I guess it's almost like a vlog / food review helps you out.
So don't forget to subscribe, thumbs up,
thumb.
And follow along with the rest of our adventures.
Yeah, please do.
It's gonna be fun.
Yeah.
All right, we'll see you guys in the next one.
Yep. Bye, everyone.
Bye.